Have you ever sent someone a message and almost instantly three little typing dots appear? You barely put your phone down before the reply arrives. It might be a friend, a coworker, or someone you just met. No delay, no waiting, just immediate response. And if you're honest, you probably had one of two reactions. Either you thought, wow, they're really attentive, or you wondered, how are they always replying so fast? Now here's the interesting part. People who reply to messages instantly aren't all the same. On the surface, it might look like simple politeness or good communication habits, but psychologically, instant responders often have deeper patterns going on beneath that quick reply. And once you understand those patterns, you start seeing texting behavior in a completely different way. Imagine this situation. Your phone buzzes with a message. You glance at it. Maybe you're in the middle of something, working, watching a show, cooking dinner, but within seconds, you feel a small urge. You should probably reply now. For some people, that feeling is mild. They'll respond later when it's convenient. But for others, that urge is powerful. Their brain treats the message almost like a small unfinished task sitting in the background. And psychologically speaking, unfinished tasks are surprisingly uncomfortable for the human mind. There's actually a psychological concept called the Zeigarnik effect. It was discovered by psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik in the 1920s. She noticed that people tend to remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. Our brains naturally want closure. A message waiting for a reply becomes a tiny open loop, and replying instantly closes that loop. So for some people, quick replies are simply their brain's way of restoring mental order. The conversation feels complete, the notification disappears, the mind relaxes. But that's only one part of the story, because sometimes instant replying has less to do with organization and more to do with emotional awareness. Think about people who are highly empathetic, the kind of person who hates leaving others wondering. If they imagine someone waiting for a reply, even for a few minutes, their brain automatically jumps into the other person's perspective. What if they think I'm ignoring them? What if they're waiting on an answer? So they respond quickly, not because they're pressured, but because it feels considerate. In psychology, this connects to something called pro-social behavior, actions that are intended to benefit others or make social interactions smoother. For empathetic people, replying quickly is a way of maintaining harmony. It's a digital form of respect. But let's pause here for a moment, because not all instant responders are driven by empathy or organization. Sometimes the psychology goes in a different direction. For some people, replying instantly is connected to anxiety. Picture this. Your phone vibrates with a new message. Your brain instantly starts creating possibilities. Did I forget something? Is this important? Did I do something wrong? Even before opening the message, the brain enters a mild alert mode. This reaction is tied to our brain's threat detection system. Humans evolved to notice signals quickly, sounds, movements, unexpected changes. In the modern world, notifications trigger similar responses. When someone is prone to social anxiety or overthinking, a message notification can feel like a question waiting to be answered, and the fastest way to remove that uncertainty is simple: reply immediately. It's like scratching an itch. The tension disappears once the reply is sent. But there's another fascinating reason some people reply instantly, and it has to do with personality traits. People who score high in conscientiousness tend to treat communication almost like a responsibility. If someone messages them, they feel obligated to respond quickly, the same way they'd answer a question in a real conversation. Imagine you're talking to someone face to face and they ask you something. You wouldn't stare at them silently for 3 hours before answering. For highly conscientious people, delayed texting feels similar. Their brain interprets the message as an ongoing interaction that deserves closure. So replying quickly becomes a natural extension of their personality. Interestingly, instant responders also tend to have a strong preference for mental clarity. They dislike mental clutter. Think of their mind like a desk. If papers pile up everywhere, it becomes distracting. But if tasks are handled quickly, reply sent, notification cleared, the desk stays clean. The same happens digitally. A message waiting in their inbox feels like a sticky note stuck to their brain. Replying removes it. But now, let's look at the other side for a moment. Some people read messages and wait hours, sometimes even days before replying, and that behavior has its own psychology as well. But what's fascinating is that instant responders often misunderstand those delayed responders. They might assume the other person is uninterested, rude, or ignoring them, when in reality, people simply have different mental pacing when it comes to communication. For instant responders, communication is immediate and fluid. For slower responders, messages are more like emails, something to answer when they have the time and mental space. Neither approach is inherently better, but these different communication styles can create misunderstandings. One person thinks, I replied instantly, why didn't they? The other person thinks, why do they reply so fast? Don't they have anything else going on? Same conversation, completely different psychological expectations. And then there's another subtle factor, social bonding. Quick replies can strengthen the feeling of connection between people. When conversations move quickly back and forth, the interaction feels more alive, more dynamic, almost like talking in person. Your brain interprets it as active engagement. That's why digital messaging platforms often feel more intimate than slower forms of communication. The pace mimics real-time conversation. So when someone replies instantly, it can actually trigger positive social signals in the other person's brain. Signals like responsiveness, attention, and interest. But here's where things get really interesting. People who reply instantly are often extremely aware of social dynamics. They notice small shifts in tone, timing, and emotional cues. Responding quickly becomes part of maintaining smooth social flow. It's similar to how good conversationalists nod, smile, and respond naturally during face-to-face conversations. Instant replies are the digital version of that responsiveness. But there's a deeper psychological layer here that most people don't think about: habits. Your brain loves patterns. The more frequently you do something, the more automatic it becomes. If someone has spent years replying to messages immediately, their brain wires that behavior into a routine. Notification appears, reply happens, almost automatically. Over time, it becomes less of a conscious decision and more of a reflex. And here's the twist. People who reply instantly often assume everyone else operates the same way. So when someone doesn't respond quickly, their brain starts filling in the blanks. Maybe they're busy, maybe they forgot, or sometimes maybe they're upset. This is where texting psychology becomes fascinating, because the absence of response can trigger interpretation, and the faster someone usually replies, the more noticeable that silence becomes. But despite all these possible psychological reasons, organization, empathy, anxiety, personality traits, social awareness, there's one thing many instant responders share. They care about communication. They treat messages as real interactions rather than background noise. And in a world where digital conversations often feel rushed or ignored, that attentiveness can actually be a strength. Of course, balance matters. Constantly replying instantly can sometimes create pressure. People might start expecting immediate responses every time. Your phone can begin to feel less like a tool and more like a leash. Healthy communication also includes boundaries. Sometimes it's okay to reply later. Sometimes your brain needs quiet space without notifications pulling your attention every few minutes. But if you're someone who naturally replies quickly, there's nothing strange about that. In many ways, it reflects a brain that values clarity, responsiveness, and connection. It means you close open loops, you respect conversations, you keep communication flowing. And psychologically, that kind of attentiveness is actually becoming rarer in a world filled with distractions. So the next time you notice someone replying instantly, or maybe you realize you're the one doing it, it's worth remembering that behind that quick message is often a complex mix of empathy, habit, personality, and psychology. A tiny notification, revealing something surprisingly deep about how the human mind works. Now I'm curious about you. Are you someone who replies to messages instantly, or do you prefer to take your time before responding? There's no right or wrong answer, but your texting habits might reveal more about your psychology than you think. Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday behaviors like this, make sure to subscribe, because the human mind is full of fascinating patterns, and we've only just started uncovering them.